On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the President and Head of State of the Republic of Equatorial Guinea for the statement just made. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Haiti to introduce an address by the Head of State.
Merci.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I have the great honor to introduce the recorded statement by His Excellency Mr. Jovenel Moïse, President of the Republic of Haiti, as part of this general debate at the 75th session of the General Assembly. Thank you. Mr. President of the General Assembly, Secretary General of the UN, ladies, gentlemen, distinguished delegates, allow me to start off by hailing the election of His Excellency Mr. Volkan Bozkır, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey, as President of the 75th session of the General Assembly. This unanimous vote is testimony to recognition of his qualities and a guarantee of the success of the work of this session of the General Assembly. I also would like to salute the excellent work of His Excellency Ambassador Tijani Mohamed Bandi, who led the work of the 74th session with great skill in spite of the difficulties related to the coronavirus pandemic. I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate the Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, for his courageous and ambitious initiatives aimed at enhancing the effectiveness and efficiency of the United Nations system in the interests of and the common benefit of our planet. Mr. President, our world is currently confronted with a major sanitary crisis caused by the COVID-19 virus, its multidimensional consequences, to which should be added new conflicts and asymmetric wars, terrorism and violent extremism, and socioeconomic inequalities at the global level, as well as climate change. All these must represent massive challenges for all of us. Today, more than ever, we need a multilateral system with more solidarity and that performs better. A system that will allow member states and the organization to develop strategies in order to take up the challenges and achieve a more holistic vision of a future that will be better for all. This in line with the declaration of the United Nations Summit on the future we want. Mr. President, it's not by chance if the elimination of poverty under all its forms and everywhere around the world is, in fact, the goal number one of the 2030 Sustainable Agenda. It is unfortunate to see that the efforts undertaken at the global level to implement this central goal are far from having met the needs that are there. Today, still a very significant portion of the world suffers from poverty and hunger. We won't be able to reverse this trend without a huge mobilization of financial resources. The gap is still between our engagements and the actions undertaken to eliminate poverty around the world is still huge. Haiti has received several billion US dollars of assistance from the international community over the past 10 years. But the living conditions of Haitians haven't really improved. The billions of dollars spent have often not taken into account our own priorities or our needs or even our own strategy to combat poverty. Now, in an approach focused on sustainable development, we call on all donors from all friendly countries to conduct a critical analysis of the international assistance provided to Haiti in order to assess its effectiveness. We want projects that are adapted to our needs, that respond to our priorities, and that allow us to implement and economic development geared towards human beings, geared towards national economic production and on the strengthening of our capacities and our institutions. We want projects that have an positive impact on poverty, and that incorporates social and environmental challenges that our country faces. Some donors are starting to understand the need to align on the preferences of the government of the Republic of Haiti in terms of the choice of our priorities, and we welcome this. Mr. President, we are 10 years from the deadline to the full implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Many countries have already made significant progress in this area. Others, in spite of their efforts, are still lagging behind. In Haiti, the urgent needs in terms of economic recovery and long-term development are immense and require a coherent investments in various areas. In the current state of our country, continuing to implement Sustainable Development Goals is a major challenge. Massive efforts and sustained efforts must be deployed in such priority areas as road infrastructure, agriculture, the electrical grid, the digital infrastructure, ports, airports, education, sanitary services, affordable housing, mobilizing direct foreign investment, reforestation, protection of the environment, restoring agricultural production, access to energy for all based on renewable sources, access to credit for all, especially young people and farmers. Mr. President, I'm fully aware of my responsibility to ensure that essential conditions are established to guarantee security, stability, and the long-term development of Haiti. My country has been experiencing a very complex socioeconomic crisis for several months, as well as excessive and violent polarization of the political class, and we will not be able to face this challenge alone. The Republic of Haiti will get back on its feet, but with the lasting, coherent, and effective support and well-coordinated support from the international community. Today, the Republic of Haiti is lacking an essential institution for the smooth functioning of democracy, a parliament. We have set up a new provisional electoral council to conduct credible, transparent, inclusive, free, honest, and democratic elections, faithful to our historical traditions. The Republic of Haiti has always sought to promote and defend the values and principles of universal freedom, of lasting peace and cooperation among the nations of the entire world. And I think, bearing that in mind, my country has constantly stood shoulder to shoulder with members of the international community who wish to build a more fair and balanced global order in line with the goals and principles enshrined in the United Nations Charter. It's in this spirit that I hail the initiative of the Secretary General, who formulated very relevant proposals to reform the organization, and I encourage him to step up those efforts to strengthen the United Nations so that it will be able to meet the new challenges of the 21st century. And to achieve this, I encourage all states to not only work towards developing common understanding and conduct common joint actions to combat the COVID-19 pandemic, but also to accelerate the implementation of programs of action that are in line with the 3 pillars of the United Nations: development, peace and security, and human rights. Now, my message to member states is, while I would like to present my sincere condolences to countries that have been affected by COVID-19, I also want to thank all of our partners, countries that are partners that have helped the Haitian state to keep the pandemic under control. In particular, I'd like to thank the Republic of China, Taiwan. It is time for the world to recognize the right to exist of this nation and grants it the proper place within international institutions, in particular the United Nations. To conclude, Mr. President, I would like to take advantage of this exceptional opportunity to urge the General Assembly to think and meditate on this concise statement that is crucial for the future of peace, development, and security in the world, made by Wilfred Jenks. And I quote, "The choice is simple but drastic. Either we live together or we will perish together." Thank you very much.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Republic of Haiti for the statement just made.